Well, hey there, and welcome to our book launch livecast. I am Everett O'Keefe, the founder of Ignite Press, and I'm excited to bring to you today a great new author, Scott Byrom, and I'm going to tell you about him and his book and bring him on here in just a moment. First, if you have ever considered getting a book out, and especially a book that you want to ignite your business or your brand, reach out to us. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you about how to bring your book out and give it worldwide distribution and run a bestseller launch like we're running today with Scott. You can reach out to us through our website at ignitepress.us, ignitepress.us. So now let's get to the main event. I'm excited because today we've got Scott Byrom's book, Seeing Money God's Way, Your Guide to Biblical Stewardship. Scott is a financial advisor, a certified financial planner, 20 years plus of experience in his practice, but also brings to the table some unique perspective about biblical stewardship and how that applies to our money. So today I'd like to bring on Scott. Let me add him in here. And here we are. So Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Everett. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am so excited. I've got your book is all over Amazon and I'm watching it. And in fact, by the way, I did not tell you this before we got on, but right now it is the is the number one hot new release in several different categories on Amazon. So
awesome. Thank you. That's exciting.
Already making a splash. So fantastic. So, and I've got your beautiful book in my hot little hand. And before we get into the book, I'd love for you to tell us a bit more about you. Tell us more about your background and how you come to this point.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And Everett, before we begin, I just want to thank you and your team for the excellent job that you've done along this journey, holding my hand, helping guide me through some things that I didn't understand how to do, and making me feel comfortable that we were making progress. So I really genuinely appreciate you and your team.
You are more than welcome, and thank you for making that an easy journey. It has been a delight to work with you.
So, writing a book in some ways was much harder than I thought it would be, in some ways much easier than I thought it would be. But the parts of that you guys took care of really took a big burden off of me and allowed me to focus on running my business at the same time that I was writing the book. So couldn't have done it without you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. So now tell us more about your background.
Yeah, so I've been in practice for 23 years now, simultaneously doing tax planning and investment advisory work. I love the blend of those two. Asking me to pick between which one is my favorite would be almost akin to asking me which one of my kids are my favorite. There's definitely parts of each of their personalities that I adore, some more than others, but couldn't live without any of them. And I really love being able to help on both sides, and how, when it comes to our money, how both the tax planning and the investment management side fit so well together. Because it's not just about how much money you make in your investment account, but it's how much you get to keep after the IRS gets their part. And so if we can do my job to help alleviate as much of that tax strain as possible, then the financial legacy of my clients gets to go farther.
So that is pretty interesting. You combining, being a certified financial planner and then also doing the tax preparation. What a wonderful combination. And you think about how the decision in one intimately affects the decision in the other. By the way, I resonate with the comment about asking you which part, like asking you which of your children is your favorite, and of course that depends on which day you ask, right? On what has your child done, that day perhaps.
Absolutely.
I imagine that happens in your business too. It's like which headache, because sometimes things can be headaches, right? And which headache has come up, which has resurfaced. I'm just going to guess that during COVID and everything like that, with all the moving target that all the tax preparation stuff was, that was probably maybe not your favorite during that time.
Yeah, yeah. Don't remind me of headaches. Tax deadline day was just last week. So we're
Yeah,
still having that.
yeah, that's right. Hey, now, though, now you can go back to your, well, that's the other part. I think of so many people who are involved in accounting and they go crazy up till April 15th and then take like a month off. I don't think you get to do that because you've got the other part of your business too.
Yeah, the market stays locked in. So I usually take one day off afterward to kind of recalibrate, get familiar with the little spot in my couch where I used to sit, and then the next day I'm back in. So
incredible. Well, so tell us now, what was your inspiration for this book, for Seeing Money God's Way? What caused you to go, you know what, I need to write this?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So there were a number of reasons, but one that resonates the most with me is I know from just being a human myself, and then from sitting across the table with so many people, regardless of what their net worth is, multiple millions of dollars or struggling financially, people all across those economic backgrounds all deal with stress. And as a believer, I know that God's desire is for us to live in peace. And so there's information that I feel like I've gathered over the years of being in practice, over the years of being involved in ministry and studying God's word, that I think help in those situations. And sometimes it's not that I've got a magic wand for my clients that can make all their financial problems go away. But sometimes it's just knowing that you're not alone. And sometimes it's actually facts. It's key information of decisions that you can make, steps that you can take that do alleviate some of that financial pain. Sometimes it's getting Uncle Sam out of your pocket. And sometimes it's just analyzing what risks are out there and how to methodically address those risks in a way that aligns with your personal character.
I think that, I understand there are over 2,000 verses in the Bible, referencing money in one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And, I know that people love to talk about, money, right? Money is the root of all evil, right? And yet, obviously, the Bible is intimately connected with how we utilize the resources God's given us. So,
so it actually says the love of money is the root of evil.
There, thank you for correcting that, right? Because that's such a critical distinction. It's, do we love the money, or is money a tool in what we do?
So I don't want to get us too far off topic, but it's such an interesting study. When you look back at scripture, especially in the Old Testament, some of the primary Bible characters that we know were people of means. You think about Abraham and the financial wealth that he had, Solomon, David, even Moses at some points. They weren't just in poverty or destitute. These people had made decisions and they had followed God's plan for them. And that doesn't mean that God's plan for everyone is for you to have the nicest house or the nicest car. But I think his plan for everyone is that we can have peace and that we can move along life in a journey where money does not have to be the obstacle that stops you from living in a certain way or being able to reach the people that you should.
Yeah. It makes me think that we're not all called to wear hair shirts and, eat locusts.
Thankfully.
That would be a super tough calling, obviously. Yeah. So you decided to write this book, and in the process of writing the book, like you said, you found it to be, in some ways more challenging than you expected as far as the writing process goes. And I don't think that that's uncommon. Is there a key principle or two from the book that you would like to share with us at this time?
Yeah. So in the first chapter, one of my favorite illustrations that kind of developed unplanned And so I'm a methodical person. When I felt impressed that I needed to write the book, just very quickly, I was able to sketch an outline, and probably to a fault, I outlined and outlined and outlined. But early on, I knew what the chapters would be, what the main context of those, in a lot of situations, what the scripture verses that we would use, and also what the principles that have been involved in my financial practice for all these years have been built on. But sometimes there were illustrations that came to mind as I was writing that I think I've kind of latched on to and I really love. One, I think one of the coolest artwork pieces. This isn't a big picture book. I'm a financial accountant brained guy, so there's a lot of words, but there are a few pictures. And so some of my friends will appreciate that. But in the first chapter there's an illustration where we talk about a Corvette, a Bronco, and a charter bus. And we're asking the question of which one of these is the most valuable? And so it's not just from an easy survey that we can say, well, if you get the Corvette modded out right, it's the most valuable. Or sometimes those buses can be really, really expensive vehicles. So that's the best one. But in choosing the best vehicle, it absolutely depends on what the event is. Like, what's the race? If it's just a racetrack on pavement, then sign me up for the Corvette. If I'm having a midlife crisis and I need attention, it's probably the Corvette. If I want to just have fun, maybe it's the Bronco. If the objective is to take a lot of family and friends on a journey, well, the bus is going to be the most valuable. And so it is with each of us. We can't just look at one another and judge, well, they've got it so much better than me. God created them for something special that I'm not able to do. Each of those vehicles is created with a purpose, and each of us are created with a purpose. And so I think we're all individually equipped to win the race that we're in.
It's it's kind of interesting you put it that way. I've been rereading the Chronicles of Narnia, and one of the key characters in The Horse and His Boy, they keep asking Aslan, well, what's the deal with that guy? And they go, well, that's his story. Right. That's not your story. That's his story. And so it just kind of caused me to, kind of think of that. Now, you also mentioned pictures, and I unfortunately, I don't have these queued up for us, but you have a picture of like a bird of prey and a B-2 bomber or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And what's your analogy there, if you don't mind sharing that?
Yeah, so I saw something along those lines sometime years ago, and I just think there's such beauty in God's creation. And I think the more that as a believer I understand the truth of who he is and how he made things to be, the more I understand that as advanced as our human science comes, we still end up sometimes reverting back to the most efficient way to do something is the way that God designed it. And so when you look at that bird of prey and that extremely well-engineered aircraft, the shapes are very similar. And I don't know, it would have been smart of me probably to go research this before writing the book, but I don't know whether the people who designed that plane intentionally mimicked the bird or whether their scientific engineering just so happened to match up to that. But it's definitely something to take note of, right?
Yeah, I think I don't think there was any accident there, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now we've got a couple questions have come in, and also some congratulations. Congratulations awesome. From Tara on your book, and Catherine commenting over on YouTube.
Yay!
And Daryl commenting in Facebook. So yeah, you got a lot of people cheering you on here. Cool. So a couple questions. Zelda asks, what are some common pitfalls and challenges that Christians face when it comes to money and finances, and how can they overcome them?
Wow, Zelda, that is a good one. um, I don't think Christians are unique that we don't have money struggles or stresses or the desire to have things. Um, I think in my practice, one of the most common challenges that I see with people is just the demands of the world that we live in financially. So it's not uncommon for a young couple to come in and say, hey, we've got this much student loan debt, we've got children, and we don't know how much we should be putting aside for college planning. At some point, we want to retire ourselves. Um, they may be facing challenges with maturing adults that need financial help from their children. But it's just that constant urgency to find where does the money go. And so that's one of the things that I enjoy getting to do is helping someone sit down and analyze, okay, this is how much money is left at the end of the month that I've got discretion over. I can choose, because there's some things you can't choose, right? At least not on an ongoing sustainable basis. You need to pay your utility bills. It's really good to eat. And Everett, I'm like you. I'm glad I'm not John the Baptist and just eating honey and locust. Um, so, our transportation cost, education costs, things that are almost mandated that we've got to have to be able to live in the way that we do. But then after those primary expenses are covered, we've got some choice. Do we participate in our company retirement plan? If we do, are we doing the Roth version or the traditional pre-tax version? Is it better off to pay down debt, or is it better to save? How much should I have in my emergency fund? What kind of risk should I take in my retirement accounts? How much stock market risk? And if I eliminate too much stock market risk, am I aware of what inflation risk is and how the value of my money on my statement may not go down, but my buying power might decrease if I'm not involved in something that helps me battle inflation? So, great question, Zelda. It's the same battles that somebody who's not a believer has. Um, but I think there's a little more pressure with us as believers, because any failure in that isn't just something that we personally did, but we feel like we've really just let God down even more than ourselves. And so, thanks for asking.
Yeah, and wouldn't you say there's also, like you said, pressure? I think a greater level of accountability. We're not accountable simply to ourselves and our family. That obviously that's really important, but we're accountable to God as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite chapters to write too, is to talking about the resources that God has given us. I love the imagery of thinking about every possession that I own, holding those with an open hand instead of a clutched hand where this is mine and no one can take it. To think about it in the sense of, God, whatever you've given me financially, experience wise, knowledge, and possessions, let me hold those with an open hand to be used for His glory. And then I don't have, honestly, I don't have as much pressure that way if I'm trying to live to manage those things for Him, instead of just, what can I gather from me, mine, me.
Yeah. Well, let me remind everybody, the book Seeing Money God's Way is currently on Amazon, and right now on a launch special where you can pick up the Kindle version of the book for 99 cents. The paperback is also available there. And I would recommend that this is a terrific book to give. This is a terrific book to give. Let's say you're a parent and you're thinking, my adult or teenage children perhaps would benefit from having a better biblical perspective on money and how to, increase it and how to see it become more so that it can further the kingdom. I think this is honestly a valuable book for any generation. I would just say probably teenager and above, I think would find it very valuable. So definitely pick up that copy today. Now also, Scott, I don't remember if this was the final version of this picture, but it is certainly worth discussing. This ended up in the book. Can you tell us a little bit about this picture?
Yeah, so that is my youngest son, Preston. he just turned 10 just a few days ago. And so that one was pretty close to 10 years ago. So.
Wow. Wow. Certainly appreciate that. What a cute baby. Almost became the cover of the book, if I remember correctly.
Pretty close, yeah.
It was difficult to sidestep that, but yeah. Anyway, so let me take that one off. So as you were writing the book, was there any portion of the book that just kind of wrote itself? Okay.
No. So I'm not the best speaker, but I'm more comfortable talking than I am writing. Because talking, I can change the cadence of my voice, I can change the volume, I can use body language and hand expressions. In writing, I didn't know how to do that with words. And so what I found is in my outlining, my over outlining, I knew what I wanted to say, but I would say it and then get to a stopping point. And when I came back to review that, I might be in a different mood or have a different outlook on things. And I would end up at the end of an hour or 2 hour session of writing with less words on the page than I sat down and started with. I think one of the biggest challenges for me was the tax planning session, because there's so much valuable content that people just don't instinctively know. Like very few of my clients come in understanding that when they're retired, the withdrawals that we take from a traditional IRA have an impact on how much of their Social Security income is subject to tax. Whereas Roth IRA distributions or distributions from a non-retirement account don't affect that. And so I really did try to put myself in the seat of the reader to say, okay, there's times where I want to read for some light education, but somewhat entertainment. And then I've got some friends like engineers who really like to get down into the nuts and bolts and understand how does all these things come together. So that tax planning chapter, I feel like one of the best decisions for me along the journey was to divide that up into two pieces. One is a 30,000 foot overview of how the tax code works, some of the key strategies and principles that we use in practice every day to help people alleviate those pains. And then, hey, here's a part B. If you really want to get in the weeds with me, we'll walk through those exact calculations and understand, what tax law pieces are put in place to make these decisions worthwhile.
Wow. Malia actually asked a really good question here. Do you have some investing advice that you can give to the younger generations?
Now, Malia, are you asking for a stock pick?
A stock pick. I was actually more going to react to the fact, is she implying that you and I are not the younger generations? Is that what she's trying to say?
Yeah, that I'm getting more accustomed to those insults the older I get. My kids are pretty good at reminding me too.
Yeah.
But it is a great question. I think, Malia, the first decision I help people make is not just what we're going to invest in, not what stock or fund or investment vehicle, but what type of account we're going to hold that investment in, or what combination. One of my favorite illustrations is a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA better? And my answer is the same answer that I give the waitress at Cracker Barrel when she asks, do I want chocolate pie or pecan? And that answer is yes, I do. I want both. And I want both Roth IRA and traditional IRA money, and actually some non-retirement account money. So some of the biggest mistakes that I've seen young people make, it's heartbreaking, but it's actually when they get so gung-ho and so motivated to be financially responsible that they put all of their savings into an account that they can't touch until way too long later. And then it comes time to buy a house, or expenses come along with a baby or changing vehicles or any of those type things. And they end up getting their money back out minus steep IRS penalties and taxes. So the first step I would say, Malia, is let's make sure that you're in the right account basket based on how we need that liquidity, how we need to access that money and when. And then let's think about that balance between how much stock market risk is appropriate versus how much inflation risk we need to fight by accepting market risk.
Can you, while we're here, do you want to talk briefly about why you recommend people why it's not an either or decision, but it's an and decision between Roth and traditional IRA treatment?
Absolutely. So with some of my wealthier clients, what I've seen is the majority of their finances are held in pre-tax, traditional 401k, IRA type monies. And what happens is, so an example, I've got a good friend who retired, if my memory's right toward the end of 2019. So what a scary journey for him there in those first few months. But this gentleman, the majority of his money is in pre-tax IRA, and he's retired now. I want him to enjoy that retirement. And we've had multiple conversations of, Scott, I'd really like to buy a truck, but man, they're way more expensive than I planned on them being. He really wants to build a shop. And I can just picture in my mind him enjoying his retirement years out tinkering in that shop. But because of the nature of all that money being in a pre-tax environment, if he were to pull enough to buy his truck and shop out in the same year, it would run him up the tax bracket scenario. One, from his normal monthly budget, it would push more of his Social Security into the pot to be taxed. And then two, not only that Social Security, but those extra IRA withdrawals, instead of being taxed at 10 or 12%, get pushed up into the 22% bracket. Well, you don't have to do math for a living to know that there's a big difference between 10 and 22%. On $100,000, we're talking $10,000 or $12,000 in tax. And so that's not necessarily a horrible thing. If we can go through life and only pay 10 or 12%, that's pretty good. But if we can be strategic, then there's ways that we can help clients get to the point where they're using their standard tax deduction for their filing status. We pay 0% interest or 0% tax rate on that. And then that allows them to draw Social Security totally tax-free. And then any extra cash flow that they need, if we've accumulated that correctly in a Roth or in a non-retirement account, we can get that out and pay zero tax burden. But unfortunately for this guy, all of his savings had gone into that pre-tax scenario. And so he's got plenty of money to live the remainder of his days on, but it's really hard to see money that you've worked for that hard go in taxes when it could have been avoided.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective because, the Roth IRA is a relative newcomer, right, for many of us. And so many people aren't that familiar with it. And then also, I do think there's a lot of people who think, well, okay, if you're young, run it into a Roth IRA, and if you're not young, do it in a traditional. But then when you come back out on the other end of it, having the flexibility to pull money from either pool, depending on your tax situation, right?
Absolutely. So a married couple can draw out about $26,000 or $27,000 a year from monies that they've never paid tax on, totally tax-free. So if someone was guided to say only save in Roth baskets, well, then when they get to retirement, there's $25,000, $27,000 a year of income that you could have drawn out and not paid tax on. So it'd be like wasting $100,000 in tax deductions every 4 years. So using that combination strategy with those different baskets allows us to have both pieces of pie, to enjoy both tastes, to save tax now while we're accumulating, and to eliminate or definitely reduce tax later while we're distributing.
I really appreciate that. I think that's excellent advice, and it's something I haven't heard. I've only heard people thinking of how can you maximize your return, and they feel like it's dependent upon your age and years to retirement and all of that. That's really helpful. We had some more congratulations coming in, by the way. There, Malia, thanking you for that advice. Also, Stacy, great job. Someone's got a big buck there in her picture. Sorry, I got distracted. So, so let me remind people again that the book is available now on Amazon, where you can pick it up for 99 cents on the Kindle version. Paperback is there as well. So please make sure to do that. Well, Scott, we've come to the end of our time. Is there any last thing that you would like to share? And I think also it'd be helpful to share how people can reach you personally if they want to get a hold of you or get a hold of your company, either for speaking or for the services that you guys provide.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Chance. I would definitely like to thank my team here at Provision Financial. Some of them have been those voices chiming in. I'm so grateful, not just from a business standpoint, but as a human, to have so many of them in my life. They're really outstanding people. As far as contacting me, provisionfinancial.com is our website. So on there, you can find our contact information. My email is on there. You can access some of our team to coordinate scheduling if you'd like to come in or if you'd like to schedule a Zoom call. And absolutely, I'll look forward to the chance to speak and talk about these things in some occasions.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you again, Scott, for joining us. Congratulations again on the book. It's such an exciting day, launch day, and so few people reach this point. You are now breathing rare air. You are not just part of the 1%. You are part of the much smaller than 1%. People who have actually written a book instead of dreamed about it and now see it published. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today on this live cast. Please make sure to pick up your copy of Seeing Money God's Way. And if you have ever considered writing a book and publishing a book, especially a nonfiction book that is meant to educate people, to share your experience, your legacy, or perhaps to help build your business and brand, please reach out. I'd be happy to meet with you to discuss your book. You can find us at ignitepress.us. That is ignitepress.us. Thank you again. Take care. God bless and have a great day.